Byers, Deborah Hoskins, and Christina McCormick.
Shalom and welcome everyone to the Righteous View. We are so excited to have everyone on tonight. I am Avia Byers, and our weekly podcast will focus on topics regarding women of all ages. Our mission is to foster righteous, open dialogue on topics that have been taboo within our communities, our social communities. We want to cultivate open and healthy discussions between mothers and daughters, between husbands and wives. We want it to be where we are everyone, mature women, young women. Our goal is to educate and promote factual information, because there's a lot of information out there and it's not always factual. We want to foster getting this information out to people into these demographics concerning our biological, psychological, and spiritual existence. So we're introducing tonight my co-host, Deborah Hoskins. There she is. And sitting in for Christina McCormick is Lori Byers. We're having some issues with her video camera right now, but I guess she'll pull that up and get that together shortly. Let's just keep Christina McCormick in our prayers. She's gone with having families dealing with transition and with a loved one. And we just want to keep the McCormick family in prayer as they go and handle the transitioning of their loved one. So we also have our professional panelist on, who is Shamika Byers. I am excited to have Shamika on tonight. She is our professional panelist. Oh, there's Lori. She's in. Sitting in for Christina McCormick. I'm so excited. And thank her for doing that. I called her up and she immediately said, okay. So I'm really glad. We're thankful that she did that. But I just want to introduce Shamika. Shamika Harrison Byers is a native of High Point, North Carolina, and has always been an advocate for children and families. Shamika lost her mother to breast cancer at age 14. This traumatic experience shaped the future and destiny of this community activist. She is a community activist. Shamika experienced the challenges of growing up without parents, which invoked a special interest in serving children in the community that are not raised with a traditional family structure, as well as an interest in mental health and overall wellness. After overcoming multiple challenges during her childhood, Shamika went on to earn a BSW in social work from North Carolina A&T State University and a MSW in social work from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, Illinois. And Shamika has worked in the triad for over 20 years as a mental health and child welfare social worker since that time. In her most recent position, Shamika served as a school social worker with Guilford County Schools, providing services to children and families. Shamika is a wife and a mother of two beautiful children, and I mean, they are beautiful. She is also a congregational leader of Meloha Goyim, or Fullness of the Nations Learning Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she works closely with the youth and women's ministry. And I'm excited because I think this, this wonderful, talented, intelligent, awesome woman is also my daughter in love. Hallelujah. So I am a little prejudiced, but you know what? She is all of that, and will be able to speak on this. She's all of that and much more than a bag of chips. So we're excited about her coming on, and we're gonna just go ahead and roll.
Thank y'all so much.
You are so welcome and so worth it. Thank you so much for coming on, Shamika.
Yes, yes. Oh, all right. Oh, okay. We welcome everyone. We're thankful that you're able to come on this evening to join us. I am just so excited about this topic and really what's going to open up tonight. We want to encourage you to tune in weekly. We're here every week. All right. Weekly, every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's 10 Ghana time, but 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the States, right here for a thought-provoking topics, that will hopefully stimulate conversations that are sometimes hard and uncomfortable. So tune in every week. Tell a friend, tell somebody, bring sure you come with your daughters, with your family, and come. Let us get and dig in and really talk about it, and really that we really get into the meat of it all right?
Yes.
In these topics. All right. And we're thankful. I'm just happy to see Tamika and Lori. Thank you. All right. We welcome you, Lori.
Hello, everybody. It's so great to be here. I'm so honored that my mom called and asked me to sit in on this one. Just to let everyone know, we are live on Facebook at the Hebraic Awakening and the Righteous View. And if you happen to miss a podcast, you can view it and all of the past podcasts on our YouTube channel at the Righteous View. If you enjoy the topics and the discussions have helped you in any way, please, please, please like, share, subscribe, hit all of the notification bells and buttons and whistles. Let us know that we have helped you and your family in any way.
Absolutely. So we are so excited about this topic, and it's really important. We've started with young women from adolescence, and are now moving up through the stages of life. So today's topic is one that's really near and dear to my heart, and I think to a lot of those of us who are on the line, and also our co-host who's not here, Christina. The relationships with yourself and with others as you move into your teen years. So we're going to start out and give the floor over to Lori first. So the first topic we're going to look at the subtopic is, what is a true friend? And I think that's a really important subject for our young ladies, because during these really informative years, friendship is really important. And we find ourselves, as we are young, very young, and if we've gone to school with other young ladies, and we have friends from when we were in elementary school, sometimes the dynamic changes as we move on into middle school and on into high school, things don't always remain the same. So Lori's going to just talk to us today, and then we'll kind of open the floor up for about what is a true friend.
Thank you for that, Mom. So, I am the type of person who likes to have a baseline. I need a starting point. I need to know, what information can we build upon. So, I looked up the definition of a friend. So, the Oxford definition of a friend is a person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection, typically exclusive of sexual or familial relationships. So that's outside of a partner, outside of a mother, father, sister, brother, outside of those. So, with that being said, we have just that baseline of someone who you are close with, someone you share mutual affection for and with. Of course, we know that there is not much in life that's just black and white and just that stays at that baseline. So there's always going to be what's called nuance. So that means those fine, tiny little details that shades in the beautiful colors and the arrays of life. So from my experience, I'm only 36, about to be 37, but I've been through the teenage years. So in my experience in life, um, I would say that a friend is someone who is trustworthy. A friend is someone who will tell you the truth. A friend is someone who has empathy mutually. You both have empathy for one another. You have support and you have mutual respect. So I think what that looks like is if you are to tell someone a secret, you would be able to trust that person with that secret and know that your name is safe in their mouth, as it's been said. um, Also, a friend will never ask you to do something that they themselves would not do. If they're not going to do it, then they should not ask you to do it. That's my humble opinion. Also, one other important thing, I think in the times of in those teenage years and growing up is knowing when to call for reinforcements. So say things are just not going well in a moment. Maybe you're having some self-doubt or confidence issues, maybe whatever it is. Things seem bleak, they seem hard. Those teenage years are hard. They are hard. Um, A true friend will know when to outsource. They will know when to say, "Hey, Mr. or Mrs. So and so, I think my friend is in trouble." That's important. It really is. Because sometimes things at any stage in life can seem to be a bit bigger than just us. And that's okay. That's okay. We can outsource. So it's important to figure out those solid relationships. And that's what I would call a true friend, solid or sure. So to contrast that, I would like to look at another word, acquaintance. So again, baseline, I looked up the definition. The Oxford Dictionary definition of an acquaintance is a person that one knows slightly, but who is not a close friend. So that's just the baseline. And a little bit of the nuance that comes to mind for me is that this is a maybe person. Maybe they'll tell your secrets. I don't know. Maybe they'll let you do some things that are harmful to you. Maybe they'll laugh behind your back at your expense. Maybe, it's just not quite the same as the friend where you are sure. Um, So I would say one way for me that I've decided to spot the difference between a friend and an acquaintance is, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but maybe drop a little harmless or innocuous tip. Something like, "Oh, I'm so afraid of clowns. And if they show up wearing a clown suit, then you know which one they are. They're not a friend." Okay? That might be an acquaintance. Or if you hear people talking about, "Oh, I heard she's afraid of clowns." Now you know this is not a friend. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to absolutely cut this person off, but you know where this person stands in your life. You know that they are not trustworthy. They did not respect you. They did not support you in that tiny little moment, in that tiny little detailed piece of information. There's something that is spoken of in the healthcare field that's called privileged information, heavy on the privileged. If I give you this information, I have given you the privilege of knowing that information about me. So don't give that privilege to people who are not trustworthy enough to handle that information. And I think I don't know if this is too short or too long. I'm so sorry. It's my first time, but um, I think the last thing I wanted to say in the age of social media is that everyone in the world is not our friend. We all seem connected in this beautiful, beautiful way where we can share and gather information. It just is with a quick touch of a button. And that's amazing. But just please know that not everyone is your friend. You may have acquaintances, you may know so and so, have a pen pal, as we used to say back in the day. Um, that my screen's going crazy. Okay. You may have a pen pal or whatever it is. You're writing back and forth, sharing language stories. I don't know what people share, but doing cultural explorations, whatever it is. But know that that is not necessarily a friend until they've proven that over the course of time. Time will tell who is a friend and who is an acquaintance. So just be vigilant and trust your gut. Build your gut to know which one is which. And that's all I have on friendship so far.
That is great. Lori, I just want to, thinking about the topic of friend, what is a true? So the operative word there is true. This person is true, trustworthy, tried. Those T's in friendship are really important. When people talk about dotting I's and crossing T's, that T needs to be there with tried, trusted, true. And I just love that statement that I think it was a very good friend of ours said that she read where a child, they were asking, how do you know that someone likes you or is your friend? When I can trust my name in their mouth. Yeah. So I really like that nuance. I really like the idea of it might sound a little sneaky to someone to say, do something like that, or sound a little underhanded. Oh, but really, truly, if you really have a concern, then it may be to your advantage to know whether this person is trusted, whether I can trust this person or not. And most times, people who are not trustworthy, y'all know it, everybody on the panel, it comes out. They usually tell on themselves. So, because they're not trustworthy to anything. If they're not trustworthy as a friend, they're not trustworthy to themselves either, you know? So it will come out. So I wanted to, that was some great points, Lori. I think it's really important for us to understand that there are those differences, acquaintances and friends. And not all acquaintances are friends. You know, they're just somebody who you say, hey, girl, I found it's a nice shoe sale at Belk's. I'm giving out my personal information to. You know, I just told her it's a shoe sale at Belk's. You know what I'm saying? But these are the things that we have to learn as we are maturing, especially going through this age.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to bring something?
A lot of what Lori said, in total agreement, because everyone isn't. And just a thought, here in Proverbs, I just wanted to, that's what came to mind. Because sometimes, like she mentioned about friends, but here in Proverbs 18:24 tells us a man that has friends must show
Friendly.
himself friendly. We must first become, we're looking for, wanting friendships. And even as we're talking about adolescents and talking about teenagers, that we must show. And sometimes we can be too friendly, but still in all, I think you're never, or can be a little naive, but just certain things that Lori said was really good, that there are signs that when one is truly a friend. But as it says here in Proverbs 18, verse 24, it says, a man that has a friend must show himself friendly. But then further it says, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. And that's a true friend is going to be with you thick
Mhm.
and thin. Whatever, they got fair feather. You hear people talk about fair weather friends. Like when everything is going good, they around. But when it gets tough or things are going, and even as young, teenagers, someone start talking about you or whatever, are they going to stick up? Are they going to stick up for you? Are they going to stand by you? Even when people are not telling truth, even when people are saying, or even sometimes we make mistakes. Even, it's not that we're always, because that's some things that we, teenagers and even as adults, we make mistakes, whatever. But a true friend is not only going to stick with you, they're going to tell you, as Lori said, tell you the truth, and they're going to stand by you. And, just as think about a brother, think about a sister, a true sister, a true, who's going to stick by you. So I'm in total agreement that these things, and just on me, when I was younger, just to give you, if my sister was on the line, she would say everybody was my friend. And that was me as a kid, as a teenager, everybody was my friend. And I knew some of them weren't my friend, but I was just always friendly. They wouldn't be all there. And I remember my dad used to say, where's your friend? I say, Dad, he would give us something. I said, well, how about my friend? I'm always looking out for my friends. They weren't always looking out for me, but I was looking out for them. But I say that, you learn, you learn. And even as my dad would even tell me, he said, baby, everybody is not your friend, and even though I think I knew certain ones weren't, but I just always had that I'm going to always be friendly. And then later on, I was blessed with absolutely wonderful friends. But these are things too that remember is in teenage years and these young adolescents and so forth, that everyone isn't a friend, but you can always present yourself friendly, but they may not be a friend. They may be, as you said, a, just an associate. Everybody isn't until
That's
one
right.
is proven. Just as they should prove you as a friendship, as a true friend, you have that right to prove them as a true friend as well.
Absolutely.
So even as we,
Yes.
oh, Lori, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just listening to what you were saying, Prophetess Deborah, and I that's amazing. Yes, not everybody is your friend, and being friendly doesn't equate to being friends.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's an important nuance that we have as well. It's good to be friendly. That's good, because you might find your best friend in that way.
Being
But I
friends.
was also thinking yes, I was thinking to say that I personally find it more fulfilling to have just a few friends, like actual friends, and be okay with many acquaintances.
Right.
Because acquaintanceship can get you places too. That can get you into doors. Say, hey, I know such and such. Oh, well, let's meet up. Let's do that. Let's do this. As you move further in life, in I guess the business world, that can help you in that manner. But having that core group of friends, maybe I don't know, 3 or 4,
Yeah.
chef's amazing
Right.
to me.
Right.
I wanted to jump in and say, Lori, I'm so glad that you brought up social media.
Mm.
Um, because I think that this generation is just so very different from when
Mhm.
any of us were growing up. And so, come on social media now, they would call us that use Facebook old heads, because really the youth are not really on Facebook like that. But when you go on there, what does it say? It's a friend request. And so you get a notification and it says somebody such and such wants to be your friend. And so a lot of times we have gone through life. Well, we can say this, our children, not the same for us. We've gone through life and meet people in all manner of ways. We could have known some folk for years, or it could be somebody we just met today, but Facebook says friend. And so even on all the other social media platforms, I think that sometimes our young people and even some of us as grown folk get confused on what exactly that means. So if somebody sends you a friend request, it doesn't necessarily mean they want to befriend you in the way that we're speaking of. Sometimes they want to know more about you. Sometimes it's to study you to see if a friendship could grow from that. Sometimes it's just to be nosy and to see what you're up to and what you're doing and all of that. But we have made, yet we use that term so casual and we use it so lightly. And I think that it fails our young people because so much drama. And I'll say, Ivy had talked about all these accolades that I have earlier, right? But my major one, the one I'm most proud of, is that I'm actively raising 2 teenagers right now. My son is 19 and my daughter, girls, okay, she's 14. And so much has occurred or come up because of social media. We've not let Elise really be on social media at this point, but she's so ready. And I'm just prayerful, and she's way behind the curve for her friends. But just by me being in relationship with her, we talk about everything. She is my little best friend. So much gets started on social media, and there are kids who truly thought somebody was their friend, and they poured their heart out and shared their all. And the next thing you know, they're reading it on social media. And I've also worked in the school system, so a lot of the disputes that come up, a lot of things occur outside of the school, outside of the classroom, and are happening on social media. So just the whole idea of knowing someone doesn't make them a friend. Somebody living in your neighborhood doesn't make them a friend. And I laugh when I think back to when I first started dating my husband, and I knew a lot of people. I was very friendly, like Deborah was saying for herself, right? And he would always say, well, you introduced me to some people and some people you don't. What's up with that? This is when we kind of started dating. And I was like, oh, you didn't need to know them because they're not, that's an acquaintance. And who my friends, that's what I guarded. And he was able to meet those, and they were able to know him, and he laughed. And then I know he said one day he was waiting to see, well, when she introduces me, how will she introduce me? Am I a friend or am I an acquaintance? So knowing people does not make them a friend. And like I said, social media puts it out there like, oh, well, but you really know nothing about them. And then let's remember, for all of our young people, you're only going to show, you can be whoever you want to be on social media. People are only going to show you whatever they want to show you. So I guess I'm just gonna say it's good in the sense that we can reach way more people, but it takes building relationship. It takes actually face to face and getting to know people, especially when you're that young. And my only other thing I want to say is that as parents, first of all, we are our children's first friend. And so a lot of what we do is teaching them about true friendship. So my daughter learns what a true friend is by looking at me and looking at my relationships and looking at my friendships. And then I kind of hang out and watch her. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I try to get to know who she considers friends and point things out to her to say, was that seems a little off, or what do you think about that? But we know when you're working with adolescents, if you just straight up tell them, nah, that person is not, sometimes they'll resist just because you are their parent. So when I see stuff, I let her know, and I'm very black and white. But what I've also learned to do is just kind of gently point her in that direction and say, that was interesting. Or what did you think about when such and such did that? Because they don't learn what friendship is. They don't learn what that's supposed to look like. And that causes them to allow people to treat them. If you're a super nice person, which this is my daughter, she's so sweet, so innocent. I'm thankful that she is still that way,
Really
because
is.
she's like that and has not experienced really people harming her. Then she thinks everybody she meets and comes into contact with in this world is going to be like her, but they're not. There's so many personalities. So I'm gonna stop there and just say we teach them about, they learn friendship through us. They learn sisterhood through us.
So we do have one question in the chat, and it's from our sister Tina. Hi, Christina. So she's asking, how did you set the rules for no social media, seeing she's in high school now? How did you do that?
Okay. So shalom, Tina. So for Elise, she is in high school, and like I said, she's way behind the curve. We're blessed to have a super obedient child. That's how we said it. And every time she wanted to, we said, no, not yet, you're just not ready. And if she wants to access things or see things, so far it's just been whatever she can get through our social media sites or whatever. And I'm just gonna say this, my concern in that, we're gonna let her have social media like any moment at this point. But I just wanted to make sure we were able to teach her first, if that makes sense. And she has great judgment, because being my background being social work, we know about DMs, people coming into your DM and pretending to be something that they're not. And so for me, that was my biggest thing, because she is so innocent and so trusting. How can we know? She knows a lot, but she's not been tested in that way. So what we are now doing is we're going to allow her to choose one platform, see how she does with that, and then go from there. But she's asked more here recently. But the truth of the matter is she's just very obedient, because I also know young people that will sneak if you tell them no and go create their own social media account. But yeah, it's just been our standard for her, not wanting her to be overexposed. But we realize that she also is growing up. So that's something, if anybody has tips on, a journey of parenthood that you come to, but we just set the expectation, and we've been blessed enough that our kids, for the most part, listen to it. And if not, then we deal with that.
And that's awesome. That's an awesome thing. So social media wasn't out when our kids, let's see, social media had just started getting to a place where it was coming out Lori, I think when you were probably going into high school, maybe.
I remember probably in the middle of my high school years. So
Okay.
maybe 2003, 2004,
Yes,
more
correct.
popular.
And because Lori seemed to be um, a lot seemed to be pretty much sure what we could see, you know, on that level. I do remember us having to cut off MTV though. We had to say no MTV after I saw what was going on in there. It was like, what in the world? So, and she was obedient and cutting that. We got rid of that channel off of there. But it's interesting the dynamic that you have to deal with now. And the more we hear about, soft parenting, that it is seeming more like, your parents are more like your friend opposed to your authority. So, Shamika, I'm so glad you brought out that point about being her first friend, because what a friend does is tells you, like what Lori said, the truth. A friend, if they see you with something on that is not appealing or does not look appropriate, they're going to say, girl, that don't look, yeah, I don't think you should wear that right there, because it's got a little, then you'll start, yeah, I think, maybe you shouldn't. And that's when I heard one of my students at Winston State say one time, Mrs. Byers, she needs better friends, because a good friend wouldn't have let her come out the house looking like that. So in doing that, then they learn. That's such a great understanding of process, that children go from their parents being that covering over them as a friend and caring for them in that way. And then they go and matriculate into these other relationships, in their life. But what happens too many times, the parents get so inundated with work, with career, with this, with that. If they're going through marital issues, if they're going through family issues, if they're going through, sometimes people are going through depression, anxiety, stressful situation, and they're missing things that they should be seeing and being attentive to with their children. And therefore, the children sometimes get lost in the sauce. They get lost in everything that's going on in the life. Remember a young lady saying, I'm so glad that you have a friend now, because I'm tired of hearing all of your business. That's terrible when your child comes to you and says that to you. I'm so glad, Ma, you got a friend, because I'm tired of hearing all your business. And so, it's funny as I think about it now, but the child was going through having to deal with the weight of the mother's, social circumstances, dealing with, the whole of whatever was going on in life. And it's, the things that will come out of our children's mouths when they, really stop and just flat out tell the truth about what's going on. And sometimes it's children can be exposed to a little bit too much. And I think that happens a lot now, because there's a lot out there now. I remember my mother saying to me, I never had to deal with what you are having to deal with. Now I'm looking at Shamika and saying, I never had to deal with what you are having to deal with now. So it's the evolution of of life, society, on our children, on our families, and trying to keep things in a place where it is conducive to love and and respect and integrity. And that's one of the things that I always tell people, look, there is something that I call within a friendship. It's called relationship integrity. So we give and we take. It's not me always giving to you, but when I'm in need, you're nowhere around. But every time you need me, I'm there. So that's no relationship integrity. So if you see where you are in a relationship, and this is for anyone, if you think about it, not just our youth or teens, but some grown people don't know how to select friends, don't know what a true friend is. But if you see that you are always giving, 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 and the person is never there to give back to you, that's no relationship integrity. That person is an acquaintance, and you need to take them out of your inner circle, if that's where they are, and put them in that outer circle. So does anyone else want to say anything concerning that, or we'll roll on to Deborah?
I just wanted to kind of land back something on what Shamika has said, because that is such a big thing, social media. And it is very prevalent, and I love what she said, of how that first relationship being her with her daughter, and even a father. It hasn't, and I know there are single homes where the fathers may not be there, but it's important that that parent has that relationship where that child is not, or that teenage is not looking, because sometimes it starts even younger, when you're giving them the tablets, when you're giving them the things, and they're on these TikToks and they're on different things and all these different social medias where they're saying, well, that's the thing. And they infatuate. Kids tend to infatuate. They make situations or things more than what it is, from just the mesmerized by the things that's going on. So they make these things, imaginary things, even a friendship like this is the thing. Whereas if they have that one-on-one with the parent, or even parents, a household, a family, where the dynamics are, or they're being stimulated, because a lot has to deal with being stimulated, and they're looking for that in other areas where it needs to be in the household first. You know what I mean? And in that household, like, and I know that, Lish, she's a sweetheart, but the boundaries were already set. There was certain, and even how Shamika had said, how in essence, even with friends, how she said, taking notice, not being naive and just letting your kids go and do. Right. You're being tentative on who they're associating themselves with. And even how she said, not say, well, I don't like that person and you don't need. Well, what do you think about it? Let them have their own reasoning, that they're learning how to reason. That's because they're immature, but you're teaching them to use certain tactics where they can learn. And this is how they mature. Well, mom, what you said, or dad, what you said, they'll think about it. Even if they don't say it right away, it's something that sticks with them. And that's why it's important as a parent to be in tune with your child. no matter how important your jobs are, you know, and all of these
Right.
things, you got to make time
Right.
because they're your responsibility. That's the first and the foremost. The jobs is not your major responsibility. Your child
That's right.
is. And that's what you want to raise them, because just like we know the social media, we know all the ins and out, and even how they'll go on. And all these young people got phones.
Mhm.
They get phone numbers or whatever, and they're texting. And a lot of things, you ain't looking at their phones and you don't always know what's going on. But with that relationship, you know when something's off. You know when something just, so you tune in and you be alert. And just as you said, Avia, in regards to not having them so much in your business too, because a lot of things, even with parents, when you're with parents, if both parents is in the home and they see that you're not respecting one another, they're going to side. Let me tell you, young kids, one thing about teenagers and children, they know how to play. They know how to play a parent on another.
Right.
They know, I'm telling you. So you got to be somewhat of a united force, and there has to be respect always. Right. Respect that has to remain, and that's why I said about the boundaries, because they're not experiencing, right. And you know, when they become teenagers, you know, like, oh, they're in this position where they think they're grown, but they're not grown, you know. And they're feeling their oats, and especially as we talked about adolescents, you know, going into puberty and all of these different things. They say you smelling yourself. Remember, parents say, "Oh, you think you smelling?" And these things go on. Okay, you think you smell? Let me give you the real deal, you know. And then you kind of tune in where you get to. You got because if you give a little room, before you know it, you done lost sight, and it's hard to get that back.
That's true. And so with that, we're going to roll right into the levels, Deborah, of relationships, because some people don't know. Lori went into it, and it's a great lead in to your segment in talking about levels of relationships.
Yeah, and just as you mentioned, the levels of relationship, and then they're different from the younger teens to the older teens, you know, like middle school area, you know, when they're in the middle school, and then when they're in high school. So you have, as you know, as Lori was talking about friendships, you have casual friendships. These are acquaintances. You have close friendships where it's tried and proved. You know, and then there's romantic interest, you know, like we said, that puberty, they start, you know, having infatuations, and, you know, and you know, and then, you know, even now, this younger dating, you know, that we see that, you know, even as we see in younger kids, because some parents don't know when a child, so they're starting even younger, teaching, you know, the little boys, and, you know, about like they can do giving gifts and different things, you know. That's not, you know, there's certain levels. So as a parent, as a mother, with your daughter, teaching them that they are special, that they're jewels, you know, and knowing how to handle and have integrity, and not be pressured by peer pressure. So as we said, in casual dating, so group friendships is, as I have here, large mixed gender group where social interaction and primarily focusing on shared activities and group dynamics. So this is how a lot of times friendship starts. You got groups in school, or, you know, even in school, and different ones in the neighborhood where you know, activities that you get to know one another. But these are only friendships, not friends per se, because they're different levels. They're casual. Some may be more intimate. When I say intimate, that means having a personal relationship in an essence where you're able to confide in one another, as Lori talked about, a good, friends. And then you have those, as I mentioned, in regards, they call them crushes, brief infatuations with peers, often based on social status, one who's popular that you want to kind of be, with, and then, with mineral interaction. You don't even know them, but because of who they are, I want to be their friend. No. Be your friend. You be your own first friend. That you have a certain a standard that you maintain. And this is even taught by parents. Taught to, be, respect yourself, and building up your daughter's self-esteem, where they're not pressured by peer pressure, because peer pressure is a major thing as well. So you have the close friendships, as was mentioned, connections with a smaller groups, friends involving more, as I mentioned, personal sharing and emotional support, being there for one another. Casual dating, not always in a romantic or something, but just certain interests, non-exclusive relationship, getting to know one another, and just development. There are the different stages. Younger teens tend to focus on group dynamics, casual interactions, while older teens may seek more serious relationship. But there are bonds, that children have, even from early childhood, that they maintain, but understanding who's a friend, who's not, what is, as we've been talking about, those who are just acquaintance, but also not being peer, realizing that peer pressure is real, and some who are pressured, and teaching, one, as you're having that relationship with your daughters, not giving in to peer pressure, being your own person, being, confident in the skin that you're in, even though you may not, they like certain acne. We talked about certain things with skin condition, just different things. And we know that bullying and teasing and all kind of things can cause one, but this is where we as parents continue to promote, to build our children, our daughters up, that they're not given into peer pressure and other different things. And anyone have any questions? And also, those who are online, we encourage you, if you have questions, if you have something to add in or whatever, this is not just us here, that those who are on and listening in, you could make comments and questions or whatever, even points that maybe that bring out as well.
Absolutely, such great points, Deborah. When we have to look at that, there are some adult people who don't know that there are levels of relationships.
That's right.
So it's important for us to be able to and this is not going to sound good, but I'm kind of a really black and white person. So I like to categorize things. I like to put things in categories. Things that have a priority, things that are less priority, and things that are just low on the stand or the level, the priorities. And sometimes what we find ourselves doing, because, and I'm glad you brought up that point about wanting to be someone's friend because of a social status. That, and this is one thing that social media has really done. So the whole television, YouTube has taken the whole social media. I know people talk about Facebook, but these YouTube
TikTok.
I mean, and people just getting crazy to be on people's YouTube channels, and people are making, I did not realize the amount of money that these YouTubers make. I'm like, wait a minute, what can I do on YouTube? I can make some money. Man, oh man. And people want to be around you or call themselves your friend because of social status. So we experience that a lot here in Ghana because we are from another country. So people want to be able to say, "Oh, you're my friend, my friend, my friend, my friend." I'm like, I don't know you. You ain't my friend. I mean, I don't know you like that. Yeah, because I don't call everybody friend. But here, people might get a little more offended when you say, "No, we're not friends," like that. But they have, because the culture is different in what they call people. That's why everybody, calls people just out of, if you're older, mom or mommy or daddy. It's not that they have that level of respect for you. They say that, but it's because it's culture, and this is what they do as a culture. So when we look at these relationships, we have to look at them from a very literal standpoint. And I just don't use, I'm one of those people that I don't use that word friend lightly. So I'm not going to say this is my friend if they are not truly a friend. I'm going to say, let me introduce you to blah, 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 blah. And you don't have to put any kind of title on it. It just means you know them and you're introducing them to somebody. Or I know this person. Yeah, I've come to know that person. Yes, I met this person. But it seems to be like a social important on many levels, especially within that age group that we're talking about. That it's important for me to be connected to you in some kind of way because you're somebody. So we have to be careful of that, because some people want to get to know you because of what you can afford them, or what they can get from you, or what they can like if you had a friend who was wealthy, when you were in school, and it's like they always giving you stuff, hey, take this, I can get another one. Hey, take this, I can get another one. It's like because you have this friend who is wealthy, now that is taken advantage of. So and then sometimes when people are wealthy when they're young, they find themselves in those positions because they're seeking a true friend. So a lot of times they don't realize these people are taking stuff from you and they're not your friend. They're just taking advantage of you. So I think we can all take something from that, experience.
Something else that I had here, and something fluctuating emotions, talking about relationships with teenagers. Here it says teenage relationships can experience intense high and lows due to hormonal changes and emotional development, because they're still developing. So they have their highs and they have their lows. And then also, effective communications is crucial for navigating the complexities of teen relationships. And then, as we mentioned, establishing healthy boundaries and respecting each other's needs in essential is essential in any relationship. But then realizing the emotions, that they're going through.
Right.
So these are all things that we have to, take into consideration as a parent, as one with our daughters, that we kind of key in on these different things as well.
Someone, so true, Deborah. Someone also put in the chat that this also happens in different churches. I think church is one of the worst. I just look. I was raised up in the church. PK, dad, a preacher, the whole 9 yards. So church can be one of the biggest places and culprits in that those social hierarchies and people coming into the church and wanting to be the pastor's son's friend or the pastor's daughter's friend or it's a big thing. Oh yeah, I'm the pastor. I get to go to the pastor's mansion every weekend and spend the night with their daughter. She's my best friend. And then all of a sudden it goes from you not knowing this person and the bad part, okay, you not knowing this person and then finding yourself in a really intimate place where these people live and seeing them outside of this church or religious establishment. And then also there's horror stories about, young people being taken advantage of because this pastor, shepherd, preacher, teacher, whoever family has now taken advantage of this person, and the person was just enamored at the thought of being in this pastor's house or this bishop's house or being in close relationship with this pastoral family. So I think the church can be very toxic in that respect, because sometimes friendship is just not, there's no lines. There's just no lines. And then you find yourself, it's just unfortunate. That I'm glad you put that on there, Evelyn, concerning that, because even in not just those social areas in school, in work, but in our spiritual gatherings, sometimes can be very hard to know who is friend and foe.
I think Lori wanted to
Yes,
say
Lori.
something.
Thank you. I was going to say to Prophetess Deborah's point about the emotions, I was sitting here thinking about that exactly, that during those teenage years, all of those emotions are really being honed in that. I think it's the prefrontal cortex. I could be wrong, whatever, science. But your brain is really developing in a more keen way during that time. And it made me think of just as quickly as a toddler or an infant develops all of that brain activity, how to walk, how to talk, how to be able to move your fingers like this, how to do all of these quote unquote simple things, is really difficult. Fast forward to those teenage years, learning how to understand and identify those emotions is really, really difficult, really difficult. And looking at your relationships is one of the ways that we're able to develop the understanding of ourselves as an emotional being. And I think it's just really, really important to look inward and check in with yourself and see, how am I feeling about each and every relationship. It could be spot on, it could be off, but that's what I'm saying. This is a time of intense learning, but just taking the time to check in and see, do I feel anxious or giddy about when I see this person? Do I feel sad or depressed when I see or hear about this person? Do I feel mad when I think about this person? Do I feel, just considering what you're feeling and then diving a little deeper into maybe why you're feeling what you're feeling, I think is an important part of the teenhood that I think we should, push for a little harder, I guess. That's it.
I also wanted to jump in and say, I appreciate what Prophetess Deborah shared about just the different levels of friendship and relationships and developing and how that looks. And I think it this aligns with exactly what Lori was just saying as well. And what I'm a firm believer of is the idea of being able to model this for our adolescents and our teens, because they're going to do all of these things and they're going to form opinions, but we can be there to gently guide, if that makes sense. So, like what Prophetess Deborah shared about the large mixed groups, it maybe when they get a certain age, kids want to all hang together, girls and boys. And then eventually, you start liking somebody, and it might be individual relationships. And we understand, all of us being women of faith, right? Um, but unfortunately, sometimes we are afraid to allow our children to venture out. We are afraid to allow them to fellowship, to have conversations, to talk and interact with people that are too different from us, if that makes sense. And I respect, like I firmly believe that every parent prays, unto the Most High, and He speaks to them on what is best for their child. But the thing about it is, if we guard our children very closely and the only interaction they have is with us as their parents, well, and maybe their uncles and aunties and people that all love them, that it's amazing. That does something great because it teaches them, it builds up their self-esteem, right? Because, oh, everybody loves them. But in the real world, that is not reality. So if a child is not allowed to socialize and is not allowed to go out and make these mistakes, and reason and learn what friendship is, then you're setting them up, because when they become an adult, you can't go with them everywhere as a parent. And so my thing is, I would always rather have my children have that opportunity to do it while I can watch from a distance and help them and walk them through that process, than for to be so guarded. And we understand what we're speaking of when we say we're set apart, and we know this. But I need for my children to know that they're set apart, know how to act amongst the set apart, but when they go into the world, still exude the same confidence, still know exactly who they are and whose they are. And then one other thing, and this was thrown around a lot, and I had it in my notes for later, but this is what I want to say. With children this age, you guys are absolutely right. The hormones are all over the place, all over the place. And so they have difficulty self-regulating. They cannot regulate their emotions, and they cannot regulate their feelings. That is a characteristic of adolescence. And so, along with that goes difficulty of setting boundaries, right? And so, what that looks like is our kids sometimes struggle to assert their own needs. So, they struggle saying, "This is what I need," and their desires. And a lot of times they will put other people's needs before their own. Because I just want them to be my friend. So whatever it is, well, ma, they da 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 da. What they need this and I need that, and that shows a lack of boundaries as far as knowing what is appropriate. Yes, you can accommodate, but how far do you go with that? And this is what I want to say that's resonating so true. This goes on into adulthood, because when you don't get taught this as an adolescent and a teenager, what do you become? You become an adult that struggles to say what you need, struggles to express your desires. You can get in relationships with poor people because you're so accommodating and you want everything to be perfect for them. Meanwhile, you're not expressing your needs, and you end up putting their needs before your own. So it's major to look at and begin to teach our teenagers how to set those boundaries. And that starts with the practice of friendship, the practice of all those different levels. And we have to be prayerful and we have to guard, but we also have to be bold enough to say they need to live. Go ahead on out, go on out and do what you need to do. Because it's so much easier. We all have dealt with grown adults, and it's so hard because adults we still get our hearts broken when we really truly thought someone was a friend, and perhaps you get that ultimate betrayal. But it's just a heartbreaking thing when you see someone that, I think Ravis was saying over earlier, they pour and give and just end up empty. So I'm saying let's model this for them now and let them have little, get acclimated to it so that they don't become adults that are still struggling with boundaries.
And that's so important. So much has been said.
Yeah.
It's so important that we see that. And I mean, the hardest thing that I think I did as a parent had to stand back and allow my children to experience certain things, because you want to be there to just grab them and hug them. You want to be there to fight for them. Look, I feel that way right now today. Bother one of my kids, I will get on a plane and I will come to the United States and I will hurt you. I mean, I'm telling you, don't bother my kids. Don't bother my children. So, but that was, I think, one of the hardest things as a parent, to allow them to be able to live and to be able to experience. And then you are there to be able to help them and walk them through. And you're able to give them. I remember, Lori, and I know you remember, when we had our conversation that time. And she was telling me about a friend, and she was just going in, and I could tell that her heart was just so heavy. And she was like, I don't understand. I've been such a good friend, and and I said, Lori, in life, sometimes people don't love us the way we love them. So you're going to meet people like that in your life, where you are given 100% and they giving like 20, and they good because that's all they're willing to give. So now the ball is in your court, where you decide whether you want to spend any more time in this relationship. So that's one of those things. The sooner you learn it, the better. But the hormonal thing does come in there. And the thing about wanting to be liked. And I remember that being in middle school and being in high school and wanting to be liked by people, wanting people to say, that you were cool, or that it was nice hanging out with you, or all that. But you didn't get that all the time. So it's important for us to share with our daughters and our children, period, that not everybody's going to like you. And Shamika, on that note, I'm going to take this, but I'm going to quote you, Shamika, on this. And I still say this quote to this day. I just said it to our assembly not too long ago. You can be the sweetest peach in the world. But if somebody don't, and it's the best peach cobbler, you can be the best peach cobbler in the world. But if somebody don't like peaches, guess what? They're not going to like you. Period. Not everybody in the world is going to like you. So we have to get to that place where there are some people and it's okay. Personalities sometimes clash. Sometimes people just don't mesh together. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't be friendly still. We can still be friendly. So, with that, we are going to get into this topic. Um, we've talked about paying attention to your children. I think Deborah brought that information out, how important it is, no matter what your job is, no matter what your position is in your professional career, or you may be a minister, or in your spiritual career. Because let me tell you, pastors, preachers, kids get neglected a lot of the time because their parents are busy trying to build this church or trying to be family to a whole nother group of people. And then their family will go sometimes neglected. So we're going to move into this part where it's important for us to pay attention to our children and pay attention to the differences and what is happening with them. So with that, we're going to get into the subtopic here about Shamika talking about young people. What are the signs? How do you see yourself when you look in the mirror? When I remember being a teen and not liking the way that I looked, not liking my hair was too short. I felt like I was too thin and too good. So not liking the way that I looked. What do you see when you look in the mirror? And the signs, parents, of depression and also low self-esteem. So Shamika, take it away.
Okay. When you said you were going to quote me, I was thinking we could all be in trouble here. This is either going to go really good or it could go. But that wasn't so bad.
I would never say anything bad. That's between us.
Right. Yeah, so this is a very I've enjoyed everything thus far. Again, I'm thankful to be here on the Righteous View with these righteous women of Yah. Anytime I think about this, the topics that we're speaking of is very dear and near to my heart. At the beginning, they shared just a little bit about me, a little bit about my life, and I spent a lot of time navigating childhood, adolescence, teenage years, and even early adulthood, just by myself trying to figure stuff out. And it came from, and this is common. I feel it important to share this because we want to look at the reason why. Why do kids end up with low self-esteem? Why, in fact, do kids end up depressed? What is going on? And when it gets so bad, because unfortunately, suicidal ideation, it can get that is the extreme of it, right? It can go to just little small self-thoughts, negative thoughts, all the way up to that. And so I think about, and I'm gonna be really quick on this one. Both me and my brother experienced losing our mom at an early age. I was 14, my brother was 16. And so the consequences of that, it looked very different for both of us, if that makes sense. So my mother was sick from the time I was 8 years old all the way up until she passed when I was 14. And what happened during those years is all the adults in our life were so busy caring for my mother, which was very necessary. She was ill. So her aging parents, were taking care of their daughter, which no parent ever wants to be in that position of. But, the cancer was just, racking her body. On top of that, I have 7 uncles, 3 aunts at that time. But my mom, she wasn't even the baby of the family. But all of the adults in the situation were very busy processing their emotions, their feelings of losing their sister, This is, this is what's going on. We're all praying to the Most High. She fought for however many years, but ultimately we see her health kind of going downhill, right? And then you have her parents who are already older and they're doing the best that they can. But their job, and we lived in the household with them, their everyday task is to take care of my mom, who, by the way, is now in a hospital bed, can't breathe, she can't do anything to take care of me and my brother because her own health does not allow her to do these things. And so then you have me and my brother. And if you meet us even today, we are so much like night and day. So much. I mean, I think it's a lot of characteristics that are the same, love, knowing the Most High, but we are very different. And so we're both experiencing this same situation in life, but it's affecting us both so very differently. So for me, I've always been a talker. Well, that's changing though. That's another episode, but when I was younger, just very outgoing, so much of a talker. So I only know what adults told me. So intelligent, so outgoing, identified as academically gifted, excelling in school, doing all the things. And so it's like constantly getting praise. But the thing about it is the consistent for me when my mother was healthy is that she was there every single time. She didn't miss a beat. So while it's been all those years, I attribute my style of being a mother to what I experienced, right? Because I remember she came until her health failed her. I remember the last school program that she came to for me, and she had to be wheeled in because she could no longer walk. So until she took her last breath, she was there. I was that student that was supported. People saw the potential in me. A lot of stuff happened. This is just a comparison of me to my brother. My grades were great. So what I did was, while I was hurting and I didn't understand what was going on with my mother, and the adults around me again were not to attack or anything, but they were doing the best they could, but they weren't minding the store. So Shamika, because I made good grades, because I stayed on A honor roll, AB honor roll, the assumption was that I was okay. Oh, well, that's going on, but look at her. She's still doing good. Her mom is not doing well, but look at you persevering even beyond all those things. And so it appeared on that surface level that I was good. And you're hearing this, nobody can be good when you have this much going on. Nobody can be good when I remember days when my mother would be screaming to the top of her lungs in pain. Before I left for school, I could hear her and standing at the bus stop. And when I came home, and you were at school for 6-7 hours, that level of pain was still that high. She was still, how did she do that out as a little girl? I don't know what's going on, but I know that my constant was school. And we went to church, so God, and I believed he would heal her. I really did. But what kept me going was school. And I was fortunate enough to have these influences, positive people. Now let's talk about my brother. Equally as amazing, equally as smart, not as vocal, not as outspoken as myself. Very reclusive. So when these things began to happen to our mother, he did the opposite. I was a shining star. He did not want to go to school. He did not go to school. My grandparents had to beg him to go to school. They couldn't get him to really do anything. He wasn't disobedient. Like, thankfully, we country living here in North Carolina, not too much to get into. But the point is, he just didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to do anything. So I even remember some things that made me think about wanting to be a social worker and someone in the helping professions. My brother would lay on the couch like freshman year of high school when our mom was still ill. I was in middle school and I just didn't understand it. But people from the school would come to the house and like beg him, please come to school. You got to be in school. You can't drop out. At that time, he wasn't even 16. But I just didn't understand. And what I would hear adults say, because kids are always listening, is, why is he so lazy? I don't understand. Why is he so lazy? He just won't go. And they weren't trying to harm him. Like, I believe these are people that loved us, but their interpretation of him not having, we know now, having the strength to get off that couch and go to school with everything that was going on, is that he was lazy. And eventually, I praise y'all because it was external folk. My mother wasn't able to do it. My grandparents were preoccupied, not in a bad way, again, doing the best that they knew how to do. But there were those individuals, and you know who it was? Sometimes it was my friends. I did develop friends, some of their mothers who took time to see what was going on and just grabbed me and said, "Come here. You're gonna do this. You're gonna be all right." For my brother, it was one of my uncles that he really looked up to because he didn't. My brother did not have a male. Our father, his father was not in his life, so it was an uncle that could get him to go to school. So what ended up happening was once my mom passed away, he went to go live with that uncle, which for me was traumatic because my mom just died, and now you're taking the only thing I have on earth, which is my brother. But now I say, yeah, it was needed for him because I don't know that he would have completed his education. Whatever it was, that uncle, and there was a male cousin there. But the point is, whether we birth these children or not, the Most High has given us the ability to make a difference. And so, I think about aunties. I'm blessed. I have my mother in love here and my sister in love on the line, and Prophetess Deborah. And I think of her as like the auntie. We've been around each other for so long, but the people that love my children, right? You don't have to birth a child to be able to make a difference in their life. That child does not have to come from your womb. So that's the one thing I want to say. And now, just to get in a little bit more of what was really happening, what was really going on, what was really going on for me while nobody was paying attention is that, yes, I was still getting good grades. But as I got older, I was also sneaking around, being with little boys, being with, if I was naive enough, grown men who kind of, you might as well say pedophiles. I don't know any better. Looking for someone to love me, right? Because the people that were supposed to, for whatever reason, because it's not always because it's just quote bad parents, right? Sometimes parents are working, sometimes parents are ill, sometimes parents themselves have mental health issues and they need the support of the whole community to kind of put their hands on the child and do what needs to be done. But everybody assumed I was okay because what indicated being okay was being on honor roll. Still, but I was still doing whatever, searching for love, if that makes sense. Whereas my brother, we were both going through what I knew later, the term I learned, depression. Depression, that's what it was. But it meant, you see how I'm a girl and he's a boy? Our characteristics are different. We're like night and day. So it manifested itself differently in us because we're still both going through the same thing, but look how look how it looks so different. So I say that to say I'm gonna share some things with you guys, but just know that this does look different in every child. This does look different in every adolescent. I'm giving examples, but you may see one, all, or none of these in the young people that are in your life. Um, so you just have to pay attention. You have to always be looking and looking for an opportunity to make a difference. So the first thing that I was asked to share about was just low self-esteem, and what that may look like, and some of the things that might cause low self-esteem, or things you may see in a young person that is suffering from low self-esteem. And as we were saying, young people, but if we just go to our inner child, some of this stuff, it resonates for us as adults. We're still working through these things. And so one of the things is negative self-talk. Sometimes it's self-deprecating thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I could never do that, or I'm a failure. Difficulty accepting compliments. Someone where you're trying to say, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You've done such an amazing job. I'm so proud of you. But they try to downplay or dismiss it, because they don't believe that they're worthy of praise. Avoiding challenges. So they might stay away from opportunities that could lead to failure. Sometimes a person with low self-esteem is like, if I don't think I can do this, I'm not even gonna try, which goes to support that thought. I can't do it. Fear of failure, social isolation. So that's a more obvious one. And I think I gave that a little bit, like when I gave the example of my brother withdrawing from social interaction, struggling to form and maintain any relationship. Because they are uh, having behaviors that are ultimately leading to depression. Um, it could also come in another form of like perfectionism, being they set unrealistic expectations for themselves, and they're constantly striving for perfection. Everything has to be perfect, and then overly being overly critical of their own shortcomings. So when I can't do anything, I'm just the worst of the worst. I'm a bad child. I'm a bad person because I can't do these things. We know, unfortunately, substance use, a person that's suffering from low self-esteem, and then they kind of get introduced to the wrong circle, get around the wrong people, substance use. And this is where I interject that I include marijuana as substance use, because a lot of young people use that as a coping mechanism. But I need them to study and look at the long-term effects of that and what that ends up doing. It greatly affects you. At the time, it seems like something that's relaxing. And then nowadays, and I have to interject, this is the social worker in me. Come on, you're buying things, you don't know where it came from. It is laced. And now you're addicted to something else, because their goal, they don't care about how you feel. They don't care about your emotions, your low self-esteem or depression. They care about that dollar. So if I can get you hooked on this, then you only want to come and get it from me. So I'm saying be careful and be mindful, because that's so casual, which is scary now. For a lot of this generation, it's almost like drinking water. We had some fear. We had some fear, but now I'm telling you, it is so common. And then we see this acting out, right? Someone may exhibit disruptive and even aggressive behaviors, and what they're trying to do is gain attention or cope with their feelings. I know y'all are listening to this and like, yeah, you sure you talking about the adolescents? Because I know some adults that do these same things. And when it goes left unchecked, that's what we become, the child that becomes the adult that is still struggling with that thing. And then there's some things that are with our understanding the people that we are, a brown, dark people, we deal with things that are kind of different, and they can lead to low self-esteem, like racism and discrimination. It can have a profound impact on a child's self-esteem, because their parent have built them up and said, you are the cream of the crop, you are the top as far as I'm concerned. And then somebody else in society doesn't speak life into their life, said something horrible. I remember during COVID, one of my son's teachers emailed him, and because he failed to do an assignment, it was the choice of wording that triggered me. And he told him that this was the epitome of laziness, that he was the epitome of laziness. So one of my things I always say is speak life or shut up. I'll tell you that, because you can correct and still speak life. But that's neither here nor there. There's microaggression. So, everyday acts of racism contribute to marginalization and low self-esteem. So how other people see us, a simple way of saying that, how other people see us brown and black people can affect, if we allow it to, our self-esteem. Consider those kids who go to a school where they are the minority. Nobody there looks like them. And so they begin to internalize whatever society is saying, and that leads to their low self-esteem. We already know family dynamics. And I shared about ours having a mother, a sick mother, a lack of supervision, knowing that socioeconomic challenges, right? You just don't have the means or the funds to keep up. Parents are, y'all said soft parenting. Yeah, that's an understatement. It's a lot of parents that will sew into shoes and sew into clothes and sew into their child looking the best, and they're not putting in that time to actually parent, right? But what that does for those, if you're a child in a household that you can't, or in our case won't, because we just wouldn't for our children, then that can make you feel some type of way when you don't have the latest shoe as soon as it drops. And then just mental health issues. So this signs of low self-esteem, all of these things is very important to address, because if they're not addressed, it can lead to depression. And depression is an ongoing threat to our brown and our Black adolescents. We are particularly vulnerable to greater burdens of depression. And research shows that we are less likely to utilize mental health services. So we have all of these things festering, everything we've talked about, the low self-esteem, um, and on top of that, our culture kind of speaks against going and getting the help that you need, if that makes sense. And so what typically happens is we're okay with that occurring in a household of faith. We'll call it that, wherever you worship. We're okay with that. But unfortunately, some situations require a deeper level of knowledge. I'll say it like that. I believe, and this is what everything I shared with you is what affected my decision to go into social work, to go into the helping professions, because I'm like, okay, I have faith in the Most High, but I also see there's something more right here. This is what other people aren't seeing. The people that are saying to my brother, he's just lazy. They don't see him crying at night. They don't see him processing, was it now going to be like if mama dies? All they see is lazy. And unfortunately, some of the elders, some of the pastors, some of the mores and the moras, when you bring that child and they're trying, they're hurt, they are hurt people as well. Because remember, we talked about how it starts out in adolescence. And when you don't get the help you need, you grow up and you become an adult who is still dealing with the same struggles. And so then we will have a title. And instead of having a title doesn't mean that Yah's work is done in your life. He still has some things to work out. But instead of owning the fact that I might not be the best person because of this, when someone comes to us, um, we just say whatever we think. We say whatever we think, and it leads to the person not truly getting the help that they need. So our adolescents are very likely to have untreated depression, and that's due to social network influences, varied perceptions of services and providers, and then just the stigma. And now it's more common now, and I'm glad to hear that people saying, yeah, I have a therapist. Yes, I get counseling. But back in the day, it was like, oh, they crazy. Like what's wrong with him? Ooh, something, your brother is a little off, what's going on? And so it's just so much stigma associated with that. And unfortunately, research also shows that unlike some of our counterparts, when we do seek help, a lot of times we don't end it, we don't finish it. So we go to 1 or 2 sessions and then that's it, or we don't follow through with it. And so those are some things as far as low self-esteem. We talked about a lot of that, kind of what gets you into that place and why it occurs so frequently within our culture, within with our kids. And so then there's teen depression. And I'm just going to give y'all a really quick list because I feel like that's kind of what you're wanting to hear. How do I know? Okay, I heard what you said. How do I know that it has gone from just low self-esteem and now it's creeping over into depression? So when you look at depression, there are emotional changes that occur and also behavioral changes that occur. So emotional changes, of course, the child or adolescent could feel sad, crying spells, they're crying now for no apparent reason, frustration or feelings of anger, even over small matters. The smallest thing sets them off. And you like, why are they so emotional? It was really nothing at all, feeling hopeless or empty, irritable or annoyed mood. And we have to be careful with these, right? Because we know our young women, I mean, they're going through things, changes in their body, start in their menstruation, and that can also lead to mood swings. So that is a thing that happens. And I don't want us to now go and be like, oh, she's depressed, look at her. No, what you also should be doing as a parent is tracking that with your daughter. I absolutely do. And I know, so I wait for her to tell me, I'm thankful that we have that relationship. And I'm like, I just need to know for your health if something is needed, yada, yada, yada. So this is how in sync, it is scary in sync that you really need to be with your daughters. Loss of interest in pleasure or things that used to make them so happy and excited, all of a sudden they have lost interest. And then conflict with family and friends. All of a sudden they can't get along with a person. Ongoing sense that life and the future are grim and bleak. Frequent thoughts, and this is where we don't want it to get to, frequent thoughts of death, dying, or suicide. They begin to, ask you about death, be fixated on death. Get them phones, scroll through them sometimes, whatever devices they're using, see what they're interested in, and try to figure out why and what's going on. Now, some of the behavioral changes, sleeping more, tiredness and loss of energy, or insomnia. It could be the opposite. They're staying up too much. Changes in appetite, so they're not eating as much, losing weight. But it could also be weight gaining because we use food to self-medicate. Guilty. I'm guilty of that one. You find out, of course, that they're using drugs or alcohol, social isolation, performing poorly in school when they have been a good student, when they have done well, all of a sudden these things don't matter to them anymore. Having angry outbursts, disruptive or risky behavior. That's dangerous. What are they doing trying that? And then self-harm. So we hear about young adults that are cutting or burn themselves, things of that nature. And first they're gonna lie and try to say it was an accident. When you confront them, be ready for that. But when you see that, you got to watch it and pay attention. And then if it gets so bad, making a suicide plan or actually attempting suicide. So these are some of the things that we have to look for within our children. And I'm going to jump back and just say, again, this is why it's so important to know your young people, to know your children, but also if we're blessed to be in the community, remember what I said. It wasn't my uncles or my aunts. Later in life, I in no way want this to my family to see this and feel like, what? Right. But the Most High uses whoever he chooses. So sometimes it was parents of friends, different ones like that, who saw me and grabbed me and said, and when we do that, I'm gonna put ourselves in that situation, do it in such a way that that family of origin still maintains their dignity. So you don't go to a parent and say, "You sorry, I don't understand what you're doing. Why don't you take care of your child? You're laying up here, you need to clean up." No, that looks like, "Hey, Shamika, can I take baby girl out for a little bit? I just want to spend some time with her. I want, do whatever with her, if that makes sense." Because we don't know, you also don't know what the parent is going through. Because and when we talk about generational curses, a lot of the times we are fighting that. So just avoiding being so judgmental. And I'm gonna say one more thing, and then I'm sure y'all have some. That was just to give the information. One of the tactics that I use for my children and for all children in my life is to let them know this is overused. I almost hate it, but that this is a safe space. That I am a safe space. I can say, because I've been a social worker, I've seen so much that you cannot tell me anything that's going to shock me, right? Prophetess, we know, I always think about, and I would have loved to have known you back when you were a policewoman. You have seen so much, and it wasn't always by choice. You're just there and it happens. And it's like, wow, you can't shock me. You cannot shock me. And so, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're doing, tell me. I would much rather be able to come in like my children know, and those that are close to me, they know, and I hope they understand. I don't care where you at, call me. I will come and pick you up without judging you. Now, we're going to talk about it later. We are. But in that moment, I hear you and I see what you need. And I just think that sometimes for those of us who are believers in the Most High, we want to raise our children a particular way. And again, we understand about being set apart, but we put them in a position where they have to sneak. And it's not that they're not going to do the things that you're forbidding them to do. It's just that now they're going to sneak and do them. And then that starts a lie, and then you got to tell a lie to cover up that lie. And when I just think, for me, I have to be realistic, right? And so we've trained up our children. It's me and my husband. Kudos, because what I see a difference in, and I'm thankful for that, is being in a two parent household. We can tag team that thing, or play good cop, bad cop. But ultimately, they can't shock me. And I tell them, there's nothing you can say or do that will shock me. And I'm not going to judge you. But in order for us to really find out what's going on, you got to tell me the truth. And even for some of the other youth, I will help you talk to your mom or talk to your dad, but we got to figure this out. Let's figure it out. We'll figure it out together. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause, and I'm just going to, as we say, open it up for anybody, anything that sparked, or anything to add or questions with all of that.
Shamika, thank you so much. And this is the thing I really love about you, is that, are you all hearing? You hearing background?
We can hear you. No.
You don't hear?
I was on mute, so I don't think it was coming from me.
Okay, because sometimes we have some interesting things as those sound waves are going over and video waves going over the ocean. But thinking about as your children, and also you going through, I've heard you tell this account, a few times, and every time I hear it, I think, my heart just goes out, because sometimes people will even see and they won't take the opportunity to ask. And that's the thing that I want to say. Take the opportunity. Look, I am a very outspoken person, and have gotten into a lot of trouble sometimes for taking the opportunity and saying something. Because I remember telling someone one time, I care more about you being safe than I care about you being mad at me. I really don't care that you get mad at me. I am concerned more about your safety, your health, your well-being. And if it takes you being angry with me because I brought out a point, or I made someone else aware because I was concerned, I really don't care that you're mad at me. I'm like, just get in the boat with all the other people who don't like me and are mad at me too. Because we really have to take the time when we see an issue. Sometimes I truly believe this, that the Holy Spirit will open up your eyes to see stuff sometime, because you're the hope for that person or for that child, that nobody else was able to grasp it but you. And he put you in the way because he knew you would be aggressive enough or open enough to go and speak to it and grab up that baby. Like you said, Shamika, hey, can I take your daughter out and we just go hang out at the mall for, I got some free time. Are you okay with it? And then you can have some free time to yourself, and I'm going to take her. Is that okay with you? If we would just take the opportunity. And when we see something, the thing I hate the most, and the thing I never want ever, and I pray, Father, please let someone not commit suicide. And I saw the warnings and decided not to say anything. How many people have had to deal with that and not seen it, or saw it but didn't say anything, because they felt like, It wasn't my place. Well, I didn't want to be nosy. Well, I didn't. Well, I didn't. And that the thing of it is, and now I'm gonna go, and we know that not everybody on that's watching is. I'm not saying that you all are believers or Torah observant, scripturally observant, but some things are just flat out literal humanity. It has nothing to do with religion or spirituality or any of that. What church you go to, or if you believe in a God. But the thing of it is, if we as human beings can get to a place where we can reach out when we think someone needs help and be that help to them. So like I always say, you can, if the person is standing on a cliff, on the edge of a cliff, either you can push them to death or you can yank them to life. So it's your choice. And sometimes our babies are hurting, and because they don't feel like they can go to their parents, because sometimes children feel such a deep and a profound care for their parents, and if they know that their parents are going through, they keep what they're going through to themselves because they feel like mom and dad is going through, and I don't want them to put them through even more. So that's where those lines of communication have to be open, and where we have to tell people, look, it doesn't matter what you tell me. I was just saying that to somebody today. You can probably tell me just about anything, and it's not going to affect me. I said, because I've seen the gamut. I've seen from the right side of the spectrum to the left side. So whatever you need, whatever we have to also be able to know when we need to reach out for help. And I know with young people, it's harder for them because they don't always know who they can go to for help.
Right. And I would just want to jump in as well and say, and when I said grab them and say, let's go to the mall, let's do whatever, let it genuinely be that, because what you are seeking to do is build relationship. So don't take somebody's child and then begin to drill them about whatever is going on in the household. Because what I needed most was somebody that just to listen to me and somebody that was interested in me. And actually, as an adult, I think back and some of my friendships I question because it's like, were you really my friend or did you just feel sorry for me? If that makes sense. Remember, this is a child that, there's nobody to give them the attention that they need. Right. And so before you can help solve anything, you just need to build relationship, and that can backfire if you do try and just drill, because it's a very sensitive area, even for those parents, and especially if it's parents you yourself don't have relationship with, but you just start by trying to build so into that child, because you are a person that genuinely cares, and you're talking to them and listening, and eventually something is going to come out eventually, and you might be able to say just what needs to be said. But sometimes and this is my experience in the school system as well, a lot of times the young people, they just want somebody to listen to them and to genuinely be interested in what it is that they have to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just saying I'm total agreement, and not relationship who they are truly for them and feel comfortable to, has said Shamika, really hit, because I am an ally. There are times when the Most High, but I'm an advocate therapy if necessary. And a lot of times it really is because just from that adolescent, from that is still because you're walking around thing that's still there that you received healing from. So everything that you said may completed. And that's important. Our community, you're talking about just in our community, people think it's like almost taboo and wrong or whatever. You're within the community, religious need to be prayed. You need to believe the Most High has, the handle, and I believe, as you said, if you have a therapist or whatever you're good, or even as an adult, you need, and after a few sessions, I'm good. Because you can be true, realize they think that they're fine, and then their trace that hurt is and it comes, in a more horrible sense, because and that if you're in therapy, and if that child, be that supportive who are there, and that you want to see, healed, even if you feel that you've gone, that it went and recently had cried out to me, and said that, for things that she went through, things that children now realizing that you get. I said, well, you think it was taboo. No, it's not. If needed and followed through necessary with prayer from other things, and I know that the Most High, but get what you need, whatever it takes. And so, and then Bethany has said what she has gone through, and glad that through those encourage her children. Some people, can, and that's strong, will encourage, but still, need, not saying with there are some, feel like, if let us be true to anybody. Be true to yourself. Sometimes we lie to ourselves, and all and it just trickle whatever, and then even you still may not be all right. Things, as we're talking, but also realize things aren't, handling, and just beautiful, right? And even as me, who was taken away was killed when my young sister, had went, and she, because it was that she had some, but I was dealing with anger and just different, drugs, even, because it wasn't, and but praise be, learn where this, the most different things, and myself, I'm saying right now, that we look to it, but all in all, what is it, colors, real and be true children, true to ourselves, necessary help, that healthy, abundant, living healthy life, that our children, the adults, and as well, mentally, and emotionally, and every.
So, Deborah, your sound was distorted. It was hard.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it's still kind of distorted. As you're talking, it sounds, mechanical. So I don't know. You want to try muting and then unmuting. Let's see. Say something.
Cool.
It's still sounding the same way.
Oh,
so I don't know if there's something going on. Say something again, Deborah.
Now, am I still sounding that way? I'm sorry. All that talking.
We could understand the words. It was just really slow, and so we could understand what you were saying, though.
Well, all in all, I was just saying, the bottom line is, if therapy is necessary,
Correct.
even if you see it, follow it through.
Right.
Don't be true to yourself. Be true to your family. Don't feel like, oh, I've just had a couple of visits and I'm good, because there are things that can trigger, and you find that you're not healed at all. True. And these things are important. That's what I wanted to bring out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. We have Bethany has said something, if somebody wants.
Yes, and interesting that Bethany, thank you for sharing that sometimes even within our family. I was just sharing with our assembly on the Sabbath and a teaching called righteous the illusion of righteousness. And there's something that's called psychological anchoring, and how someone can, it's connected to trauma or either happy events. But those traumatic events, someone can do something and it cause you to get anchored in this thought that something is some way, and it's not, but it's because your mind has been anchored in that. So there was a gentleman who used to be one of my mother's customers, and a very good customer, and had a talk with us concerning one time he was going to a family reunion, but every single time He said he thought about going to this family reunion. He would get this feeling of dread because when he was a little boy in his family, going to family reunions, his grandmother was color struck. Now, she was a very, very dark skinned woman herself, but all of her grandchildren were very, very fair, very light skinned. And he was light skinned also, but he was the darkest of them. So when all his cousins would come, she would just love on them and love on them. And when he would walk up, she would say, "Here comes that little darky, that little black one." And he got anchored to this thought that he was so ugly. And this gentleman, he was not a bad looking man. And as he was talking, I looked at him because he was very light skinned, not extremely light skinned, but he was light skinned, what we would call light skinned. And I thought, so she would call you darky? And and he said, yeah, because I was darker than all the rest of my cousins. So the lady had passed on, had transitioned on into eternity. And every time he heard the word every time he heard the phrase family reunion, he had a dread that came over him because the woman was just so toxic in her speaking to him and talking to him, and how his parents, because they felt like they had some kind of that was some form of honoring her, that nobody checked her on it. And that's another thing. We need to check people on stuff. You say something, guess what? If it's wrong, I'm going to check you on it. And I can say it respectfully. I can definitely say it disrespectfully. But if you are older than me and I'm giving you that honor, I can say it respectfully to you and check you, because our children are worth it. And there is no reason. I mean, it's so inhumane for a person to downgrade and demoralize and to make a person feel that they are of no good because of how you think they look. So that would cause these issues with a young person, and they're in such, being young in that age, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, you're just so moldable at that time. And when a person is quick to see things that they think are negative and bring them out to you and speak so openly to you concerning them, and then adults stand around and nobody has the courage to say something. Be somebody's hero. Be a child's hero for once and not accept it. Respectfully, Grandma, you're wrong. You're wrong for that. Because you blacker than him. You darker than him. So what's up with that?
And I want to say, a lot of times they're doing what is not okay, but they're doing what was done to them. So
yes.
That is something that has for generations affected our people. And we know where it stems from, where you were considered. I mean, let's look at where we are today. You could almost rank us in complexion. And, they've done tests, and we've seen this floating around where they sell the kid, point to the bad person. And the child points to the black, the darkest person that's on there. And it goes back to us, to slavery is exactly where that starts at. But to Bethany's point, thank you for sharing that, sis. And it's so true. Colorism, that's another thing that can cause our children to have low self-esteem, because society says you're supposed to look like this or look like that, when the Most High created us in so many beautiful colors and shades and sizes. And I always like to personalize these things to give a visual. When I was growing up, it was boys on my bus, and I had to go through this every single day. And they gave me a nickname. They called me Shamonkey. And these were Caucasian boys, my classmates. It was one boy and two of his older brothers. And we lived in a neighborhood that it was predominantly white where I lived at. And so I hated it. I dreaded going on the bus every day
Do
because
you
I
remember
knew
their
as
name?
soon as
Remember their name? Do you remember that?
again. Oh, I do, but it's I'm sure that y'all has handled that by now. But yes, called me Shamonkey. And every day I had to go through that. And then I was in the age of the Jerry curl. So I had this Jerry curl. And when they made that movie, it was the worst thing that could have ever happened to any of us that had Jerry curls coming to America.
Right.
So glow. So the
Yeah.
reason I had a Jerry curl is because I just told you my mom was sick. So they needed the lowest maintenance, whatever could happen. But I
Right.
had to go to school and be called Shamonkey every day. And the sad part about that is on the bus, it was my classmates. Again, we lived in a predominantly white area. At school, though, it was mixed. And so I remember one day thinking these guys, these white guys, said it in front of some of my black classmates. And instead of them defending, they thought it was so funny. Like the guys actually started laughing and joined in with that. So we have to consider that when we're talking about low self-esteem, it's about what the world shows us. I was so glad when we finally came to the stage of natural hair and beginning to appreciate and love our skin and understanding that the Most High created all of us differently. So, sis, what you're saying you do, you encourage your beautiful children that they are beautiful, but don't get proud. I know that's right. We have to speak life. We have to speak life, and we have to show our children that they are absolutely beautiful. And to my sisters that still choose to use perms and chemicals, you're beautiful too, right? But we have to learn that. But colorism is deep seated, and it is definitely something that it's sad when it gets so heavy. But there's people that don't even want to go to school because they don't look a certain way, or their hair is not like how they want it, or they could be being teased. So if they don't want to go to school, you want to try to find out why. What is it? And set it up so they can actually share with you what it is that's going on that makes them feel that way. So that's a valid point. And then we just got to start doing the work, just like you said, calling them out, even if they're our elders, we call them out respectfully, and we say, something Tabitha Brown said, and she's not super spiritual, but somebody spoke about her and she just said, who hurt you? Who hurt you? So to our elders, when you have something to say and it's coming out and it's poison and it's toxic, it's hard, because I know me, I have a hard time if you're older than me saying, hey, but somebody has to be, if not me, then who? You got to find a way to say these things, because usually there's a root cause for all of it. And what I talked about, some of the behaviors and things, and y'all talk about this weekly there's a root cause. So at the end of the day, just like Prophet has said, that using the therapy and not being ashamed, I firmly believe that goes hand in hand with the word, with knowing and understanding, for me, because my belief is strongly held on the Most High and the scriptures. And I know there's people that out we have a wide audience here, but let's use what he's given us. And I do believe this it can be conflicted, because there's people that don't even believe in what I do as a social worker, as a therapist, right? But they work hand in hand. So the solution to that is to find more of us. More of us need to come on. Those of us that have this desire and this passion, get the education to go along with it, so that we can. Because one thing with therapy is the consistency. I think they need a dedicated person. Because if you're coming to me as a congregational leader. But every time you need something, I can't drop everything and be there for you, if that makes sense. And we know sometimes we feel like, oh, I just don't want to bother that person because I've told them so many times. But if you have a therapist, that's a dedicated time. It could be once a week, once every couple of weeks, however often you need it. And that is your time with that person. So the solution to that is not just to say therapy doesn't work. I definitely believe in finding the right person and making sure that their beliefs and that their methods that they utilize in therapy align with your own beliefs.
Absolutely. And let me say this really quick. Colonization is something because it's like that here. The lighter your skin is, the more, and I'm saying this because we have our Ghanaian sisters and on the line too, that the darker skin are looked at on a lower level. But if you're very light, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so pretty. If Caucasian people come into a restaurant, those Ghanaian people are going to stop what they're doing and they might stop serving you to go serve those people. So colonization has done that to all of us, all the way around, and has somehow told us that the lighter your skin is, the better you are, or the more you deserve this white privilege. And it's really, really sad how that has affected our people all over the world. All over the world, it's like that. So we would just have to really, with our children, be proactive in that, and be on point. And I'm doing this. Be purposeful. I'm doing this on purpose. This is not just a sideline, or I just kiss you at night and say, you know, mommy thinks you're beautiful, right? Now, that's nice to say. Absolutely. But there's got to be those things that we draw out of them, that beauty that's within them, draw that beauty and allow that beauty to come out. Because in so many instances, and a lot of our communities sometimes, especially a lot of times, unfortunately, in some of our spiritual communities, we will have those, things where we do that dividing of what we think is beauty and what we think is not beautiful. Or even within our communities of faith walks, where we feel like a woman is not supposed to look beautiful. She's supposed to look, that modesty means ugly. And it doesn't. Modesty means just what it means. Modesty, look up the word. It doesn't mean that you got modesty, does not mean ugly. But what we do, we think of a definition, or we think that something is supposed to be a way. We think that righteousness is this. We think that beauty is this. We think that we look on TV and we see the ladies size 2, and like, look, everybody cannot be a size 2. Every woman in the world cannot be a size 2. That's not realistic. So we have all of these anchors that we are dealing with that have anchored us down to certain thoughts and certain beliefs, and it's not even truth. So we have to really get our children anchored to what is truth. And the truth is that Father Yahweh made us all beautiful. We are beautifully, I love that scripture. I am beautifully and wondrously made. And he made us all look different. We're all different shades and hues and hair textures and that's what I hate people saying good hair, bad hair. Oh, you have such good hair, good hair. And all of that, all of those things that have continued to divide us. We have to get to a place where our children understand and know it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we look like. Father Yahweh put us on this earth and he created us in a magnificent way. And everything that we have, that it's not only about the outward appearance, but it's about what's on the inside.
Yeah. And I think that children need to hear you say that as a parent, or as anybody influential in their lives. Let them hear it.
Yeah.
Because especially if that wasn't done for you,
Yep.
You're not used to it.
That's
So
right.
now we have to make it the norm that they need to know from you before my daughter ever steps out here and we get to the point of her courting or dating or anything. She needs to know that she is the apple of our eye. She is the apple of Yah's eye. Just like you said, she's fearfully and wonderfully made. Her esteem needs to be not super great, like sis said in the comments, not getting too proud, but know who you are and know what he made you to be so that you can't be bamboozled when you do get out here and you begin to date. And people cannot, if you already have low self-esteem, what usually happens is that as they grow up, because this is the age where that happens, they get connected with someone who, let's say, has a narcissistic personality, and they can sense that weakness and can sense that low self-esteem, and they go in on it, if that makes sense. So it's so many reasons that this is necessary, that we, the making sure there's positive self-talk. Something that I always say is think about those scriptures and post them. Speak them every day, even if it's just one scripture that your child needs to learn, or you speak it over them. Bless them before they leave you each and every day. But they need to hear from you how beautiful they are, and to know it at every opportunity you get. And me is personal. I just have a love for the women of the Most High, just for women in general. So if you get around me, you're going to get a compliment, and I mean it genuinely, because there's something beautiful in all of us. And sometimes you've just never heard anybody say that. Hey, beautiful, how are you? How are you today? What are you, the girl? That is, because you don't know. I mean, it makes a difference that whatever you sow, whatever you're putting out there, it could make the difference for someone's self-esteem. So these things have to be taught. And I'm gonna say this, ladies, y'all had to know this was more than one evening of this is such a great and heavy topic. And when Rabbis was sharing it, I was like, whoa, that's so broad. It's so much you can go into, but it all aligns. And so it's all about having your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, all of those things align, and not being afraid to do whatever it takes. Because on top of the therapy, we're going to be fasting, we're going to be praying, we're going to be studying God's word. All of these things work in tandem, because the overall goal is healing and wholness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Does anyone have anything else you want to bring out concerning this topic, or anything you thought about and you didn't say, you want to bring out? No? All right. Well, this has been a great discussion. And I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Shamika, for coming in and bringing your professional background, your professional experience, and not just your professional experience, but also your life. You lived this topic. And I just thank you for bringing that and being able to share it and being so transparent with it. And that's one thing that we really need in this world today, is more transparency. Because as we can see, we can turn on the news and Father, ever since January, we've been seeing some shady, all kind of crazy stuff going on that just is not, it's inhumane and outlandish and everything else. And we're being told that it's something else. So we really need to be align ourselves with truth. And that's what this righteous view is about. You know, it's about truth. It's about what is true. So, you know, we have so many people walking around, and nowadays, you know, people talk my truth, your truth, her truth, his truth. Everybody got a truth. But on this show, we're going to talk about what is really true. True, either something is true or something is false. And when we look at it from a standpoint, now can be variables. There can be things that occur and make make a situation look like something because of the background story. So we want to just always be cognizant of that we get the background story. But the bottom line to this whole thing is that we want to speak over our daughters and let our daughters know that it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter how tall you are. It doesn't matter how short you are. It doesn't matter how thick you are. It doesn't matter how thin you are. It doesn't matter how what kind of hair you have, whether you have hair, whether you don't have hair, whether you've got it just straight, kinky, whatever is going on. That you are beautiful, and you, most of all, you are made by the Most High, and He doesn't make mistakes. So, hallelujah. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to close out with our closing. Lori, you have anything else you want to say? You're good. Okay. So Lori, you can go ahead with our closing statements.
All right. So thank you for joining us. This has definitely been amazing. That's the thing I would like to say. This has been absolutely phenomenal to me. So if you enjoyed yourself, our email address is therighteousview01@gmail.com. Again, therighteousview01@gmail.com. Please send in any topics that you think or feel would be helpful or beneficial to you and your family. Also, if you have a degree or a specialty in any area of women's health, women or adolescent health, and would like to be a panelist, please email us and email us with your bio, and we'll review it and get back to you as soon as we can.
Oh, again, I truly enjoyed everything. Thank you again, Shamika, for coming. And as Avia said, you know, your expertise, it was truly, and just your transparency was truly beautiful. And also, Lori, we thank you for just coming and joining us and being on one of our hosts tonight. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. We enjoyed you and all that you given unto us. You know, I just think, your input and all that has gone forth, and all that has been said. And to our listening audience, if you have enjoyed the podcast, please tune in and tell a friend. Next week's topic is relationship with yourself and others as you move into the teen years. We will continue, I believe, right? Or if not, we'll tune in.
That's not the topic for next week. I'm sorry, I forgot to change that on the script.
Oh, I thought so. Okay. Well, it'll be posted.
We will put it out there.
We'll
Believe
post what our next week topic will be.
I believe Christina has already said that we were going to deal with special needs.
Special needs. She did.
Dealing with special needs.
So we're asking that you tune in next week as we will we'll go into the topic of special needs, which is very important. So we look to see you next week. And if you have put a comment in the chat that we didn't address, please email us and we will reply as soon as we can. All right.
So we want to thank our special panelists. Thank you so much, Shamika, for coming on and providing us with your professional view and your very personal testimony on this topic tonight. Lori. Yes, thank you so much for sitting in on behalf of Christina. Our hearts go out to Christina the McCormick family again.
Yes.
Keeping you lifted and y'all lifted in prayer concerning your transitioning of your loved one. And just want you to know, Christina, that we missed you and we're looking forward to you being back on the Righteous View next week. And Lori, thanks for bringing that younger perspective. Sometimes we need, a little younger perspective. So we thank you for doing that. But we want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to another edition of The Righteous View. So good evening, everyone, and have a great week.